It's been a year of sewing. Ooh la la. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Emma, and in this series, I take you along with me as I learn how to sew off the internet. And although I say that I'm learning by myself, I find that this sewing journey has been very much a team project in the sense that when I started out, my mom's friend actually helped me kind of like break the ice to get into sewing, showing me what to look for in a sewing machine, how to thread it, and help me find the right tools, you know, the basic tools to get started. And then from then on forth, every time that I've gone to buy fabric, because I really don't know much about fabric, I usually show the lady at the store a project that I have in mind, and she will recommend me something. So this whole process was made possible because I've had a lot of help and a lot of knowledge that has been shared with me from other people. And of course, the encouraging comments and tips and insights that you guys leave on my channel. Thank you guys so much as well. Go team. So you can probably see at the back here, I have everything that I made in my first year of sewing in chronological order. And after that, I have prepared some questions in this little bowl here that I will pick out and we'll answer them. So when I was just starting with sewing, I wanted to sew things that had straight lines only so that I could start with the most basic stitches. So that's why I chose to begin with a tote bag. And I made a ton of tote bags actually, but I gifted away a lot of them. This is another bag that I made. Again, the majority are straight lines, but there are some curves and it is also fully lined. So that was a step up from the basic tote bag. On the same subject of squares, rectangles, and straight lines, I made a pillowcase like so. And then I went into my let's try to pattern make ourselves era. This was the first skirt that I ever made to my own measurements. I've worn it a couple times actually when it's warmer out. I've kind of forgotten about it, but I think I'll start wearing it again. And I made another one, basically the same design as the other skirt, just that there's this more flared out section at the bottom here. And then I tried making a tiered skirt for my mom and I added some pockets. I kind of dig it. I think I might have to steal this from her every once in a while now. And then I also made her a matching set. This is kind of like a peplum top and a midi skirt at the bottom. Afterwards, I made some pajama stuff. So these are my favorite pajama bottoms. And I started with more homeware because they were a little less risky. If anything were to go wrong, I would be wearing them indoors anyways, so it wouldn't matter as much. Here are some pajama sets, very cutesy. We have a set with rabbits and a set, well, just a shirt actually with chickens. I still have enough fabric to make a pair of shorts, but because it's still kind of chilly out, I'll probably wait until it gets a little warmer for me to want to make more shorts. And I think this is the last piece of clothing that I patterned make following a video tutorial. This is actually one of my favorite jackets that I own. It's made of two pairs of jeans in, as you can see, one is a darker wash and one is a lighter wash of denim. And the making of this jacket actually took me on a tour around the city. From getting my hands on the jeans to buying some more tools that are specific to sewing denim, as well as, yeah, finding a place that did buttonholes for denim and things like that. So I got to tour around the city with this jacket. So after this whole period of making my own patterns, following a tutorial of course, I realized that, for example, if you look at this skirt right here, the belts, there's basically no reinforcement here, so it can get a little rumpled, a little crinkly, and I feel like it doesn't have as much structure as I would want it to have. And as for this one, I actually have not worn it at all. One, I think the pattern is a little bit out of my comfort zone, which is maybe not the best reason to not wear it, but it's, yeah, I think my construction wasn't so good either. And the combination of the two made me not really reach for this in my cupboard. it is now time to buy some professional patterns, especially because I wanted to tackle dress pants or, you know, more formal wear, more structured garments. And although I could attempt to pattern make it myself, I felt like these structured garments have to look structured. The lines need to look straight for it to look good. And if it looks good, I'll reach for it and wear it. So that was when I bought my first pattern, which is the Darcy Pants pattern by Dressmaking Amore on YouTube. All the links of all the tutorials I use will be down in the description box below. So this is the first pair of dress pants I made. And while I was sourcing the fabric, I wanted to go for plaid because I felt like it looked more fun. But it was only after buying plaid and I talked to one of my friends about it. She was like, ooh, Emma, you gave yourself a problem. Because with plaid, you have to kind of pay attention to match up the plaid lines. The sides aren't matching up too much. And I suppose the more you sew, the better you'd get at it. The back, yeah, pretty good. But I feel like it's only the people who sew that are aware of this, because I don't think I've ever looked at someone else's plaid shirt or pants and be like, oh, that pattern doesn't match up. This is my second pair of dress pants. This one is a block color. I think I was lucky enough to find a dressmaking house, a pattern house that created patterns that fit my proportions very, very well, actually. So I barely had to make any alterations to the pattern and it came out looking good. It fit me well. And I found myself grabbing for these pants a lot. And I made another one. This one is probably my favorite out of all the Darcy pants I've sewn up to this point. I found some fabric that my late grandma had left in the closet, and we had enough to make yet another pair of pants. This one is more of a thicker, wintry fabric, which is perfect for this time of the year. At that point, I was like, you know what? Maybe I can try to make a pair of shorts out of it by just cropping the pattern. So I did make a pair of shorts, but I think the proportions are kind of off. So size-wise, it fits me pretty well, but fit-wise, I think there is still something else to be done about it. I did 3 in a row, I think, and then I did these 2 in a row. After making these 5 pants, I was like, let me take a break. So that's how it usually goes. I'll hunker down and really get into sewing for about a week or 2 weeks, and then I need like 2 weeks to 4 weeks break. And then after that, I was like, you know what? I want to tackle some tops now. And I had just enough fabric left over from my pants project to sew this vest. I believe this is the Sabine vest from Dressmaking Amore, and it's a simple, beginner-friendly vest. It is kind of like a loose fit, which makes it very easy to throw over other garments. And this was the precursor so that I could understand the makings of a vest in order to move on to this more complicated, fully lined Marlin vest. I'm very, very proud of this project. Between the cutting of the pattern to the cutting of the fabric and the lining and the interfacing to the sewing and all the buttons, I think it took me a total of 18 to 20 hours spread over the course of 2 days, I believe. I love this vest. I think it looks very classy. It's very bright and the material is reflective, so it reflects light onto my face. It has a golden clasp in the back as well, which I think adds a nice dainty touch to the vest itself. My mom picked out some fabric that she wanted to make into scarves. So this was a very easy project. This is just a rectangular piece. What I learned was to do a rolled hem. But a simple rolled hem, like so. And during that same fabric shopping spree, I came across this knit fabric, and I haven't worked with knit fabric a lot before, so I was like, you know what, maybe I should start with something simple like this. And when I realized how simple and quick it was to make one of these, I made myself another one and another one. So I have a lot to go through in rotation. I've changed in and out of so many garments, my ears are ringing. I actually have enough fabric in this dark forest green to make myself a t-shirt in dark green. And my mom asked me to make her a long sleeve in this red. If I finish making those by the time I finish editing this video, I'll have it somewhere on the screen. I made my mom a pair of matching pants. It's very much giving Uniqlo crepe fabric. At this point, the Lunar New Year was coming up, and in Vietnamese tradition, the Lunar New Year is kind of like when you get to wear your new clothes. So I was like, you know what, this is a great time for me to make some of my new clothes. So I made a vest and pants set, and this set is actually for my mom. And I made myself a matching set as well in this dusty pink / purple color, so my mom and I can match. I actually made both pants at the same time so I could remember the steps a little bit better. And then I made the two vests at the same time as well. They're kind of pretty. See, the thing is, I've relied on these buttons a little bit too much, probably. It's also the buttons I'm wearing for this crochet cardigan I'm wearing right now. But yeah, one button has already managed to pop off. So I would take it as a sign as to maybe I should branch out a little bit more, try to find some other buttons, maybe in some other parts of town. And that is the whole set. And this was the final piece that I made during my first year, is this black dress. It is of knit material, and the bodice up top here is lined as well. When I first made it, I did not have an occasion to wear it to, but I will be going to my friend's wedding in about 2 weeks, which will be the perfect occasion to show off this beautiful, beautiful dress. I actually did not think that I made this many things until it's all here on the rack. And you can kind of see the progression of the materials that I started out with, the patterns that I tried at the beginning, and then into this more structured garment era, and into my knit fabric era, but a lot of just structured basic garments that can be mixed and matched a lot. Ooh, the other day I was helping my aunt, who's pushing 80, to clean out her closets, and although there were no skeletons, we did find a lot of fabric. So much. There's some fabric that looks pretty sewable. Some other fabrics are more on the interesting side, I would say. But yeah, back in the days, my aunt was very big on having her own tailored clothes, and her friends knew this, so they would always gift her fabric. And this is why she has so much of it. And when she found her old fabric, she thought of me, which I am honored to be associated with thought of fabric. So I really like that tradition that they had, gifting each other fabric. This Barbie pink of a fabric, it's, well, you know what? I don't know what type of fabric this is. I would like to learn more about fabrics, actually. Anyways, the thing is, my aunt's complexion is a little brighter than mine. Although a lot of these fabrics might actually fit her complexion, not necessarily all of them look good on my complexion per se. So the fabrics that I can't use for myself, I would probably save it to sew for someone else, or save it until when I want to learn how to drape material, you know? Then I'll have spare fabric to drape. Okay, question time. First question. Something I wish I'd known starting out. I think if I were to give my past self a little piece of advice, I'd say to little Emma to not stress out so much if a project isn't finished in one day. You can take multiple days. You can even take breaks in between those days. You know, you don't have to finish it all in one sitting, is what I would have told myself. I think I could have also learned a little bit more about presser feet earlier on to kind of know the tools that I have available and make the most use out of them. Next question. Most worn piece. The piece that has been objectively worn the most would probably be my pajama bottoms. I freaking love those pair of pants. I've also worn my dress pants quite a bit and the jean jacket as well. The thing is, in Vietnam, especially in the summer, the sun can get very scorching and blazing, and the temperatures can go up to about over 40 degrees Celsius, which is this much in Fahrenheit. And because our main mode of transport in Hanoi is with mopeds, our arms are out in the sun a lot. So my jean jacket has been my best friend in the summer while I'm riding around town on my scooter. Third question, most time-consuming piece. The most time-consuming piece would probably have to be the jean jacket and the vests. The jean jacket because I did not have a seam ripper back then, so I think I spent 2 whole days just seam ripping the jeans themselves. At that point, I was still seam ripping with like my thread snipper. Yeah, which is a ridiculously long amount of time, I think, to be seam ripping 2 pairs of pants. And I was also drafting the pattern by myself. I was running around town to get little bits and pieces that I didn't know that I needed. But overall, a very rewarding project. Would I do it again? Next question. Favorite piece to make? My favorite piece I've made so far is probably the black off-the-shoulder dress. I just think that the knit fabric is quite forgiving in terms of sizing. And I also think because it is the final garment that I made this year, it is kind of like the culmination of all of my skills that I had built up over the year. I actually wrote the questions on these little pieces of paper, but they look so small, so I'm just leaving them in here kind of like confetti, so just for decor. Skills I still find difficult. Sewing zippers and not have the fabric kind of like bubble up and scrunch in on itself has been kind of challenging. So I would sew the zipper and near the end I would have like a lot of loose fabric left behind that I would fold, and you could see the fold quite visibly. So now what I've done with it is to kind of distribute the fold along the entire zipper, which I don't know is the right way to solve this problem, but so far that's what I've been doing. Okay, for one, the zipper is way too long. And also, I sewed it on backwards. Also, I got the wrong zipper. These are for dresses, not for pants. Hemming the neckline of knit material has also been kind of challenging. Even when I make my own bias binding and try to like hem, like armholes or the neck hole, the hem kind of like flips out still, which is something I'm still trying to troubleshoot. A sewing tool I wish I'd gotten sooner. Definitely a seam ripper. You would think that that would be the first tool that I equip myself with, but I actually did not get myself a seam ripper until about 8 or 9 months into this whole sewing process. And it was like a breath of fresh air, seeing how much more pleasant the seam ripping experience could be. So had I bought a seam ripper from the get-go, I would have robbed myself of the joy of getting to seam rip with the seam ripper after seam ripping with a snipper. Pieces or skills I would like to learn. I actually have a lot of pieces that I want to make next year. One of them is like a cargo pant. I've heard that they're very time consuming, but I think you learn a lot out of the process of making like the cargo pockets and whatnot. Besides that, I also want to make corsets that are lined with boning, and that would be my transition into making more gowns and dresses type thing. I've actually picked out some gowns and dress patterns I want to make next year, but I'll wait until an occasion comes up that inspires me to like pick out a fabric, choose a pattern, and make the dress. At some point, I also want to make áo dài, which is the Vietnamese traditional dress that both men and women can wear. I want to be able to make myself an áo dài that fits me perfectly. And at some point, in the near or far future, be able to learn how to make a men's 3-piece suit. That would be really cool. Next question, favorite thing about sewing? I think we'd have to go back to why I started sewing in the first place. So I got into sewing a year ago, and it was not the first time I had thought about sewing. I had been thinking about learning how to sew about a year before that actually. I wasn't really sure, because I felt like there was so much I needed to know to get into sewing, and then I had to invest in equipment and things like that. But then a year into this whole pondering process, I thought to myself, do you want to go for the rest of your life without knowing how to sew? And my answer was no, I want to learn how to sew in this lifetime. And I was like, great, let's start now then. Initially, I wanted to learn how to sew because my frame, my proportions are a little bit on the edge of the size ranges that are commonly available in a lot of retail stores here. Like if I go to big shopping malls with like international brands like Zara, H&M, and Mango, they usually carry my size, but if I go to more local brands, more boutique stores, usually they're more tailored for a much smaller stature than I am. So instead of going through the trouble of finding other local brands that carry my size, I decided instead to go through the trouble of learning how to sew. which, you know what they say about like, you gotta pick and choose your battles. So sewing is something that I wanted to pick up anyways, and this was a good enough reason to do so. The more I got into sewing, the more questions I had about this process, or how do I make this type of seam, or how do I alter this pattern to fit different measurements or whatnot. And it's not in like the more questions I ask, the dumber I feel. It's more of like, the more I learn, the more it makes me want to learn. And the other interesting thing is, I think if I merely liked clothes and I didn't like the sewing process itself, I probably would have just gone looking to buy more clothes. But I clearly do enjoy sewing. Is the reason why I've been able to hunker down for like 10, 12 hours at a time sometimes to just work on a garment. And also there's just something very satisfying about making and getting to wear your own clothes, you know? Ooh, I like this question. Favorite sewing channels? I have some chaotic sewing channels that I really enjoy. If you're into sewing, you've probably heard about her, Micarah Tewers and Stormy Kelly. These two people have a very interesting way of eyeballing their measurements and eyeballing cutting out patterns and stuff. And somehow the finished garments still look spectacular. And it makes me a little less scared to kind of like freehand things a little bit more. Or in other words, even when I'm not precise, I know how to troubleshoot it and still make it look good. As for more technical channels, I'm a diehard fan of Dressmaking Amore, if you can already tell. It's a mother and daughter duo, and they make a lot of beautiful, classic, minimalistic patterns with accompanying video tutorials, which I learn a lot from, skills that are transferable to other projects. I also really enjoy Glory Allen. What's really captivating about his channel is, besides the sewing elements, he is also very big on cinematography. The way he plans his videos and films his videos are all very aesthetically pleasing, I think. And that, coupled with his technical knowledge of sewing itself, I think is quite the gem on YouTube and a wealth of resources to be learned from. I've also been watching Kiana Bonolo a lot. She's a fashion designer and she creates a lot of patterns here on YouTube. And a lot of the dresses that I want to create next year will be based off of her patterns. Okay, this is the last question. A message to myself a year from now. I think there is a lot going on next year in terms of sewing. So it's safe to say that this episode will be the finale, the final episode of season 1 of the Sewing Diaries. And yeah, I would like it if future Emma, a year from now, she does her second year in sewing review, to kind of respond to this section of the video. Hey there, hope you're doing good. Where has sewing taken you? Like in terms of like the experiences that you've had or the people you've met along the way, anything that has made you frustrated. I'm really excited to see what you will have done a year from now and how you've grown as a sewist, as a creative. And I hope that you've been able to learn and equip yourself with the skills to express more of your creativity through this medium of fabric. So yeah, that is all for this video. Thank you guys so much for following along with me. How was your year in sewing this year? Anything that made you want to pull your hair out or anything that made you really proud? Be sure to let me know in the comments below. If there's anything that you'd like to see me do or tackle in this upcoming year of sewing, be sure to let me know down below as well. There is much learning to be done and a lot of learning will be done. I promise. Stay tuned.